What is the primary method for deriving happiness? Is it the number of times you smile per day? Is it how many ha-has minus the number of boo-hoos over the course of your life? Is it something more ephemeral? Is happiness something nobody is able to accurately quantify due to its ever-changing reasons for being? Are humans the only ones capable of feeling happiness?
Surely not, you say, for have we not seen happiness in our pet dogs, turtles, and cats? Well, maybe not cats. They are nothing short of an enigma wrapped in a soft, cuddly fur with some sharp bits for scratching. So if humans as well as animals can feel happiness, could we not surmise that other things are capable of happiness as well? The theory of animism encompasses beliefs that all material phenomena have agency and emotion, that there exists no categorical distinction between the spiritual and physical world, that the soul, spirit, or sentience exists not only in humans but also in other animals, plants, rocks, or geographic features such as mountains and rivers. What about shapes? Can shapes be happy? Can shapes be sad? Following the belief of animism, could we therefore reckon that perhaps a rock is happy because of its shape? It is proud of its edges, angles, and curves. What determines what aspect the rock is proud of? Is a triangle rock sad that it's not more square? Perhaps within the ancient world of shapes, there lies an overarching class system dividing and separating the various shapes into their respective classes, like that of the nobility and peasants. At the top are the shapes with the high number of edges and corners, the kings and queens of Aegea, the dodecahedrons. Below them are the courtesans and leaders of industry, the decagon and enneagon. There are the octagonal judges and heptagonal lawyers, hexagon doctors and square police officers. At the base of the shape caste system are the triangle artists and craftsmen. But there lies a deeper, more insidious level below that of the standard edge shapes, those cast off and shunned from society, the edgeless shapes. These poor, wretched creatures are the circles, ovals, and geometrically unbound shapes. They are the factory slaves, working the mines and manning the sewers. They are the unseen and unwanted dregs of proper shaped society. Since the conquering of form, the dodecahedron has ruled Aegea with absolute control. Any shape wishing to improve its station must go through the carving, a brutal procedure in which shapes are cut and reformed to add new sides and edges. It is a costly and dangerous endeavor, one that only the wealthiest of shapes can afford. It is here in the unseen bowels of Aegean shape society we meet Simon. For 23 years, Simon the Circle has toiled as a dockyard slave. His role in society is to clean out the soot-stained engines of the great coal-burning ships that cross the open sea. 18 hours a day, he finds himself elbow-deep in muck, scraping and scrubbing till his fingers are blackened and raw. His remaining 6 hours are spent either in the communal house watching shape dramas, or if he is able to find the energy, he puts in a few hours of work at the textile mills. He hopes working these extra hours might be a way to make a few extra dollars and one day save enough money to achieve his dream of becoming an artist of the triangle class. He knows it is foolish, and he is often ridiculed by his fellow circles for even believing it to be possible. Yet he tries. Simon knows he is lower class. He has known his entire life. Ever since his forming, he has been edgeless, cursed by the Maker to spend his life hidden from the light and splendors of those who have corners. Day after day, year after year, he slowly watches the small flickering flame of his hopes and dreams wither and fade until that inevitable day when it finally snuffs out and he is left as nothing but an empty husk of circular refuse. But for now, he has not given up on his foolish boyhood dreams. He still believes that one day the Maker will reach down their hand and reform him into the shape that he believes he can become. Daydreaming of the beautiful world that could be his if only he had a few corners and some actual sides instead of this dreary, perpetual roundness. Simon was by no means the smartest or most skilled of the circles. Sure, there is technically no such thing as a smart circle, but there were still levels of non-stupidity among them. Simon worked hard and was not one to be frivolous with his meager earnings. He saved as much as he could from the pittance he was paid at the docks, though saving was particularly difficult as the Pentagon overseers continually raised the prices for food and access to the communal homes. In his youth, Simon had always been a bright and happy circle. Laughter came easy to him, and he was never without friends. Over the years, however, he was becoming more reclusive. finding in himself a darkness that pushed him to seek the mindless oblivion of drink. He had, on more than one occasion, spent nearly the entirety of his week's pay in a single night of liquid-based escapism. He found that for those few blissful hours he could almost forget what he was, and pretend, even if just for a night, that he was anything other than a circle. Last night had been one of those nights, and he was now facing the repercussions of his actions with an ache that simmered deep behind his eyes. As he scraped away in the bows of the ship, he tried to recollect the events of the previous night. He had been out with a few other circles. Scrape, scrape. After a few drinks, one of them had suggested they try to get into a Triangle Tavern. Scrape, scrape. Did they actually get in? Was that why he was so hungover? Was Triangle liquor that much stronger? Scrape, scrape. No, he could remember now. They had been barred from the door, but there was something else. Yes, he remembered now. There had been a collection of shapes in the alley behind the bar. Scrape, scrape. A few triangles, a square or two, and had he even seen a hexagon? No, it couldn't be. No self-respecting hexagon would ever be seen fraternizing with circles. Scrape, scrape. They had wandered down the alley, joining them at their overturned barrel, sharing a few drinks and stories from around the city. He remembered them laughing at him when he told them that he was one day going to have enough money for a carving, that it was his dream to someday be a triangle and be given the ability to practice art. Scrape, scrape. They told him it was impossible, that even if he saved everything he made over the course of 3 lifetimes, he wouldn't have enough. Scrape, scrape. He was adamant, though. He told them how he was working extra hours at the textile mills. He told them that he rarely went out drinking despite being out with them currently. He told them about how much he had saved already, and that he kept it under one of the loose floorboards of his... By the maker above, he froze with his scraper in hand. He couldn't remember. Had he really told them where he kept everything he had saved? He abandoned his scraper, letting it fall to the metal floor with a resounding thunk, and darted out from the ship. He was met with shouts from his superiors that he would be docked a full day's pay if he didn't get back to scraping. But he couldn't think about that now. He had to know. He had to make sure all his dreams still survived. He arrived at his communal house panting and out of breath, heedless of the fact that others might see him. He threw back his sleeping mat and pulled up the loose board. It was there. Blessedly, it was still there. The small black sack in which all his hopes of one day escaping this wretched circular form resided. He reached inside, and his momentary exultation deflated like a punctured balloon. The sack was empty. Gone. Everything was gone. He sat back and let the weight of his stupidity wash over him. He was ruined. He would never not be a circle. He wouldn't even be able to buy food or pay his rent anymore. He had nothing. Then he heard a voice. Not a circular voice. This was a more beautiful voice, one that spoke of wealth and prestige. He knew that voice. He had heard it last night in the alley. He dashed out of his room and sprinted through the streets, causing many of the circles to wave their fists in anger at him. There, near the exit of the circle slums, he spotted the man from his delirium. It was true, he had seen a hexagon with them last night in the alley. He rushed up to the tall, imperious shape, and without thinking grabbed his arm. The hexagon spun and threw Simon to the ground. Hexagons had much more strength than a simple circle. Simon scrambled to his feet, but before he could do anything, 3 square guards came around the corner investigating the ruckus. "What's all this about?" the rough square growled. Before Simon could answer, the hexagon was already speaking. "This young circle just accosted me." No, I didn't," Simon found himself babbling. He couldn't control himself. The words were out of his mouth before he could take them back. "He stole my money!" Simon shouted. He knew his mistake immediately as the words left his mouth. Shocked and stunned, the square guards looked from the hexagon to Simon. The hexagon rose to its full, imperious height, and instead of shouting, as Simon had expected, he spoke in a soft, venomous tone. "You dare accuse me of theft? As if the likes of you, a circle, could ever have something of value to me." He spat to the side. "We're sorry, sir," one of the squares chimed in. "We'll see this circle punished. A few weeks in the prison should help him to remember his place." "No, I don't believe that will be sufficient," the hexagon said. "He has insulted my honor. I demand that he be exiled from Aegea, as is fitting my station." He leaned in close to Simon and whispered so that nobody could hear. "Beware the loose tongue, for it often slits its own throat." Then he jingled something in his pocket that sounded awfully like a handful of coins. It was these fateful events that eventually pushed Simon to where he was now. A full year since his exile, he sat in a filthy, hollowed-out hole in the rock, starving, dehydrated, and lacking the energy to even stand. He was surprised he had even lasted this long. Most circles that had been exiled only made it a few weeks before either giving up or starving. He had subsisted by rummaging in the garbage and eating anything he could find. The occasional rat was now considered a delicacy to him. All that had come to an end when the new factories were built over top the garbage pit. Now he had nothing. He had less than nothing. He huddled against the howling wind, hating himself for what he was. He slipped in between moments of delirium, unsure of what was real and what wasn't. He found himself in an open expanse of white marble extending out into infinity. The sky nothing more than a brighter white than what he stood upon. There was no horizon that he could distinguish, yet there was still a sense of up and down. He was shocked, to say the least, when something spoke to him, as if from the mouth of 1,000 overlapping voices. He was too frightened to even comprehend what it was saying. Eventually he looked up and saw a form of light rising out of the marble floor. It was somehow even brighter than that of the surrounding white. It rose, then settled just in front of him at eye level. It seemed to be expecting something from him. "Am I dead?" was all he could think to ask. "No, not dead," the beam of light pulsed as it spoke. "What is infinite can never truly die. Merely change." "That is what I wish. I wish to change," Simon said. "And what is it that you would have me change?" "Me. What I am." "You wish to be different? How?" "I want edges," Simon found himself pleading. "I don't want to be a circle. I hate being a circle. I want corners, nice, sharp, beautiful corners. Make me an octagon, or at the very least a triangle, anything but this hideous roundness." The beam of light appeared to frown, if an entity made entirely of light was capable of such a thing. It grew smaller, and the next time it spoke, it was as soft as an early morning breeze. "For generations, you have believed that your worth is in your corners and your sides. You have built society to function based on these fallacies. You have cursed and condemned your creator for the way that you are, never thinking that perhaps the way you are is the way you should be. Can you not see that your obsession over the number of sides one possesses is in itself moronic? Consider yourself, you that believes yourself to be the most lowly of creatures. How many sides does a circle have? Does a circle not have an infinite number of sides? Every tangent that can be found along the never-ending expanse of your circular form is in fact another side. You ask me to give you more sides in the foolish belief that this will make you happy? That it will somehow make you more significant, more important? Yet I have given you more sides than that of any other shape, for theirs are countable. Yours, however, number even more than the stars in the heavens. The strange vision suddenly ended, and Simon found himself again on the brink of death and starvation. Yet something was different. His sense of resignation receded. It was not as if his entire worldview came crashing down around him. It was more that his view of himself was somehow now open to what it had always been. He had just been too afraid to admit it to himself. No, he was not of less worth because he was a circle. He was beautiful because he was a circle. He loved his smoothness and his long, never-ending, flowing nature. This was what he was supposed to be. This was joy and pure acceptance of oneself. He knew what he had to do. He had but one job left to him in the world: to make the others see for themselves the beauty of what they are, no matter the number of sides, edges, or corners one had, no matter the smoothness of one's body or any of the other superficial designs. All shapes are beautiful for the fact that they are unique.